Hey friend, in today's watercolor tutorial, I'm going to be teaching how to paint this winter landscape of the Great Smoky Mountains. Without further ado, let's get painting. I'll just be using three colors. We've got Prussian Blue, Payne's Gray, and Ivory Black by Winsor Newton. The paper I've taped down here is a size 5 by 7 inches, and I will be using a size 16, size 2, size 6 round brush by Princeton brand. To get started, I just want to do a really subtle wash of Payne's Gray for my sky. And I'm just going to do just the first, I would say 2.5 inches. And I'm going to take a really faint watered down value of Payne's Gray. So nice and simple, just a faint kind of dusty, foggy blue. And once I have that laid out, I'm just going to be sure to take some water on my brush and just lightly buff out this transition line with some water so that way there's no harsh water lines. I'll just go ahead and let this dry, and when we come back, we'll start our first mountain layer. Next, using my size 16 brush, I am going to mix up some Prussian Blue with some Payne's Gray. And I basically just want to get just a little bit of a softer blue, and the Prussian Blue is quite bright, so I just want something kind of in the middle between these two. And once I have those colors mixed, I want to lay out the shape of a mountain. So I'm going to start by angling my brush upward and then down and up again. And then I'm going to slope it just slightly downward again, just like so. So we've got two peaks here. And while this line is still wet, I'm going to take my brush and just rinse it off a bit. And I'm just going to apply some water right at that ridge line, just like so. And from here, I'm going to take even more water and just apply it to wash all the way down. From here, I just want to take my brush and add a little bit more pigment towards the top. And then I'm just going to rinse my brush and tap it on my paper towel just to have a slightly damp brush here. And I'm just going to smooth out the transition between the mountain and the faded kind of misty wash that's down below. And if needed, you can always add in a touch more paint. All right, and I'll just let this layer dry, and when we come back, we'll add our second layer. Next up, I'm gonna do a second mountain silhouette using my size 16 brush. And this one, I want to start kind of differently. I'm gonna start with an angled line pointed downward, and then I'm gonna bring it up, down, and then swooping upward slightly again. From here, I'm just gonna swish some water into my brush and then allow the water to just let the pigment bleed out. And I want to tap in just a touch more Payne's Gray into the second layer. So I'm just mixing in a touch more of that color. And then I'm just going to rinse my brush off. And using some water, I'm just going to allow this color to softly bleed out. And taking a step back, I kind of want to adjust this peak just a hair bit to slightly overlap. In between these two peaks. And I will just drag some of this pigment downward, grab a little bit more water, and just help soften this transition. All right, I'll let this second layer dry and then we will move on to our third. Now I want to mix a touch more Payne's Gray into this next layer of mountains we'll be doing. And this one here, we're going to lay out with our size 16 brush again. And I just want to make sure that I am kind of mixing up the way that the mountain range is laid out. So I'm doing just a couple peaks here. Making some areas a little bit jagged. Then from here, I'm just going to take some water on my brush and allow the water to just bleed the pigment out down below. From here, I'm just going to get some clean water and just repeat that step of dragging down some of the faint blue pigment all the way down. I'm going to add just a touch more blue. And then I'm grabbing just a bit more water to drag this down once more. And now I'm just gonna allow this third layer to just set and dry before we move on to our fourth and final mountain layer. I want to switch gears to my size 6 brush instead of my size 16. And into the blend of the Prussian Blue and the Payne's Gray, I would like to mix a little bit more Payne's Gray along with some black, just to make it an even deeper, richer black-blue combo. And from here, I am going to do a straight horizontal line, kind of right where the transition of the mountain color and the more watered down version of it kind of fade out. And then from here, I want to do another mountain, just like so. Maybe I'll make this one have a little bit more of a tinier one here, just to add a little bit more variety in the texture. All right, and then I am just going to fill this all in with this really rich color with the black, Prussian Blue, and the Payne's Gray blended. And after that, I am also going to mark off just a little bit of a silhouette of a rock formation. So I'm just doing some really just loose, simple, kind of jagged rock-like texture here. And then I'm also going to fill that in using the same color that we mixed. And then in the left corner, I'll do just a smaller version of this. And fill that in. And then starting to get some more details for our water here, I would like to add just a slight wash of our color here. And I'm touching the mountain slightly. And then from here, I want to actually switch gears to my size 2 brush. And I'm going to take a little bit more of that color that we mixed. And then I just want to incorporate some really loose, kind of watery ripples. Just kind of utilizing the wet wash that we laid out just below the mountains with our size 6 brush. And this is just going to help give it a little bit more watery texture so the lake isn't as flat. And I'm kind of just lightly dragging down some of that pigment and just letting it glide across, doing this kind of horizontal left to right motion. And I'll do a little bit more paint on this right side as well. And here you can just kind of play with some of the different values of some pops of some deeper values of the color. Now using my size 2 brush, I'm going to mix a little bit more black into our mixed blue color. And I just want to do a few pine trees. I think I'm just going to do 3 on this side. And then maybe just 2 on this left side. And after I've laid down my trunks, basically just a vertical line, I am going to use my size 2 brush to just add some branches on either side. And I just organically and loosely move my brush left to right, and I mentally just follow a cone shape where it's wider gradually towards the base, and as you go up, it's nice and thin and more narrow compared to the base, and it's more just a gradual change. And then I'm just going to buff out the base so that way the rock and the tree kind of look similar. Like there's not a separation of the two as much since it's just a silhouette. Then I'm going to do the second tree here. And again, using super light pressure. Towards the top, I'm basically just barely dabbing my brush just to get very thin brush strokes. And then as it gets a little bit lower, I gradually increase the width. So that way we get this really loose, simple cone shape with some texture on either side. And then I'm just going to do the same thing over on these 3 trees to the right. In this white part of the sky here, I would like to add a few flying birds. And I'm going to use super light pressure with my size 2 brush and do some very, very dainty little V letter shapes. So I'm basically just doing the tiniest lowercase V letters, essentially. They're nice and dainty and delicate, and these birds are far off in the distance. Doing some of the V letters more like a true V, and then you can also do maybe a bird where its wings are more flat. I like to typically do some odd numbers of birds, so I'm just going to place my 7th one right around towards the right. I hope that you enjoyed this watercolor tutorial of the Great Smoky Mountains in winter. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any further watercolor tutorials. And if you'd like to post your artwork from this tutorial, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Kendra VanDruff. I would love to see your artwork.